let me ask you for advice. What would you say to young folks, wherever they come from? So in high school and college, they're thinking of how to live a life, have a career they can be proud of, and especially if they're struggling, especially if they're at a low point like you were when you came here.
Travel. Travel is one of the biggest things in the world that I would ask people to kind of go out to, see how other people live. Don't go there with your own preconceived notions or trying to make people act like you act. Like, go out there and travel and actually experience the world. And it doesn't have to be another country. Going from Tennessee to Seattle, is a pretty interesting change of scenery.
Who's better at knife fighting? Just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
Tennessee. But the traveling is one, and knowing how other people live is one aspect of it that I would tell people. It's risky, it's dangerous, but that is part of the journey, is one of the things I would ask people, young people, to kind of consider. Service is essential, and it should be at the basis of all of our lives. Service. Start there. Start with service. In any industry, you're going to go start your own restaurant, you have to work in the kitchen first. Service. If you're going to be a productive member of this country, service. And I'm not talking just about the military, because the military, it's a process and it's a lifestyle and it's a thing for some people out there. It's not even a choice for other people if they want an education, and I get that. Community service of any kind is an essential thing. The ability to go out there and interact with the people that you would normally not interact with, the homeless population that there is in this country, the older population that in Mexico are old, die in our homes, but here you send them off somewhere else to die, which is an interesting, weird detachment that I've seen in the U.S. as far as how the elders are cast aside. If I can say anything to the young people, is to start figuring out a life of service, and that's gonna expose you to a bunch of experiences, to a bunch of people out there that you might not regularly kind of meet and see, and realities. Education is out there. It is expensive, but I've sat through a bunch of really expensive classes that I've managed to see on YouTube and learned a lot from them. So education is out there, but it doesn't have to be as expensive as they make it. It's all about the individual and what he does with that education. The dream is free and the hustle is sold separately is something else I watched somewhere online. But the ability to take information, process it, and use it. We're expecting everything to be safe, processed, and given to us in a platter, and taking that and digesting it and thinking that's going to make us somebody that's going to be productive or valuable in society. That's up to us. The U.S. talks a lot about freedoms, but doesn't talk a lot about responsibilities. I think that's a big part of, take responsibility for shit. Like, I came here without anything, and the first thing I thought was, I have a responsibility for the people that I've worked with and the people that are going through the same problems than I am. How can I figure out a way to help?
Yeah, the dark side of thinking a lot about freedom is thinking too individualistically, meaning thinking about me, how to optimize my situation, forgetting that the deepest growth you can do as an individual is by taking care of others, by helping others, by being of service, by being useful to your community locally, and then hopefully also at scale. And that's how you grow. And that's responsibility of helping those around you.
There's an isolationist aspect to culture now.
Yeah. It's
like we're separate. There's almost like a spiritual or cultural amputation in a way where, when I was a kid, the house where all the bikes outside of it, that was where all the kids were hanging out. Mm-hmm. And now everybody's on their phone, in the separate houses, chatting on whatever. There's a detachment to there. It's a weird aspect to it. And also the aspect of I need to be safe. I can't be offended. Don't hurt me. Safe spaces. This is my right. This is my right. This is my reality. You need to respect it. Respect is earned. And where I come from, respect is earned. There's freedoms, but there's dangerous freedoms. Those any freedom you have in Mexico is a dangerous freedom in a way. You can drive home drunk in Mexico. You can, if you bribe a cop on your way there, and if you don't die or crash into somebody else. That's a dangerous aspect of freedom. But there's a responsibility to all of it. it is a twisted responsibility and a twisted way kind of talk about it and describe it. But I think the aspect of people screaming for freedom up here, or their rights or their privilege, without the responsibility, what are you doing for your community? What you're complaining about this, what are you doing about it? Another thing I've noticed in traveling around, it's scary, is the whole people getting shouted down or canceled because of what they express or say.
Yeah.
Some of the creepiest experiences I've had in the U.S. has been through universities, or just seeing young people that have an opinion that is completely outside of reality.
Mm-hmm.
People telling me how things are in Mexico because they learned it through a college course.
Yes.
And seeing sons of immigrants criticizing me because of my opinion of Mexico or what I have to say about it. And, if you want to encounter the worst enemy of a Mexican, is usually a second, third generation Mexican up here that shouts you down for what you're saying.
I mean, in general, entitlement, all of those kinds of things. Some of that comes with just being young in general, but yes, humility at a societal scale would benefit significantly, especially the young. So I would say some of the service that you're speaking to comes with being humbled.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best things you can do as a young person, whilst maintaining the dream and the ambition. Humble yourself to the reality of the world.
Yeah. One small example, a micro example of this. My kid, there was a homeless guy. She was out with family members. This homeless guy showed up. He was erratic, mentally disturbed, created a scene. She was upset. There was a little bit of trauma there. She's like, oh, now all homeless people are bad. So with her, she does art pieces sometimes for me and helps me make designs for the clothing brand that I have. And we take some of that money and we buy socks and underwear, And sometimes I have them in the car. Sometimes I drive around and see somebody that needs something and I give it to her. And it says, you helped me earn this money that's going to help these people. So you should just give them these. And she's like, and I'm like, oh, thank you. And she's like, hey, cool. So roll up the window. She used to roll up the window really quick. Now she doesn't. They cease to be scary.
Yeah.
Because now some of them have names. Now some of them know her name, when she crosses by there. So there's contact there. Mm. She's more connected than I am in some of these places now. She has friends in low places and in high places. That comes later, I guess. But she is learning about service. She's learning about not everybody out there is an enemy or bad or scary. She's learning about service. And she's basically learning that lesson that I got from my mom long ago. Nobody's against you. They're for themselves. Don't take anything personal. And if you're not doing something for other people while you're working, then you're not doing anything.
So when you were young, you were pretty sure you're going to die before you're 30.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with death today? Do you think about your mortality? Are you afraid of it?
I'm not afraid of it. If anything, I'm afraid of meaningless death, or at least a meaningless walk towards it. I'm afraid of losing use of my legs, I guess. I'm afraid of not being able to go out there and do things anymore. I'm afraid that I'm not physically capable of doing the job that I used to do. So if anything, I'm afraid of stillness. It's something I always quote a lot in my writing. Stillness is death.
So you always want to be challenging yourself, moving, growing, like you're traveling. So you get all these experiences and filling your life with all these experiences. And if it ends, when it ends, you're ready for it.
Yeah. I'm not afraid of the end. The ending is important in all things. First time I got a promotion, I got 2 silver coins handed to me. Mm-hmm. Here's a silver coin, and this is another silver coin. And he said, I'll give you the other one when your job ends. It depends on you if you wanted to have it over your eyes or in your pocket, right? And the lesson there is that, this job you're getting, it's pretty cool, and you're going to be in charge of all these people, and it's pretty important, but it's going to end. So you always have to, the ending is important in all things. if we don't keep that in mind, then if you think we're immortal and nothing's going to end, I think there's an atrophy, a spiritual atrophy in that.
For the sake of spiritual flourishing, this conversation too must come to an end. So I think a beautiful way to end it. And I'm a huge fan of yours. Thank you for being a man with a life well lived and for talking with me today. It's an honor, man. It was an awesome conversation.
Thank you for having me on.